TitleMatchNetwork.com.
I worked with him his third match, Warrior 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
At this point, though, he's
He was on top.
surpassed you. He's
Yeah.
he's beating Flair at the great.
He was all right. I mean, Sting was all right. I mean, he
Good
kept to
guy.
himself. Luger wasn't in the dressing room. Larry is his real name, was a great guy. At the gym, good dude, man. Good,
Yeah.
really, really. But he was miserable, But those guys weren't getting any days off.
Right,
No
they
days
were-
off. They
right.
were not getting. So they kept to themselves. Those guys ran together, and Steiners would travel with him a lot, and Brian Pillman,
What were the Steiners like outside of the ring at that
They were
time?
cool. They were
Good guys.
Oh, yeah.
How about
If they liked you, if they didn't like you.
did they like you?
Yeah, I know them both. I worked with them when they started. I worked with Rick Steiner in Louisiana. I worked with Scott in Tennessee.
How about Dusty Rhodes? He was one of the big.
Dusty was kind of mad at us because we left and walked out in '87.
So
Remember?
he still held that against you.
Still had that, yes. He kind of did. He had a right to. He had a right to change our gimmick, but that's not why he changed our gimmick. And he used us a little bit. We actually did 6 mans with Dustin as our partner. I did the '91 Great American Bash with Dustin as our partner. But I think he was kind of a little mad, and that's now you look back on it, and I don't blame him. I'd be mad at me too, dumbass for doing that,
We always hear stories about the Four Horsemen from
But our run was up pretty much. Yeah, go ahead.
the 80s and the 90s.
We got to work with Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko a lot too. Boy, they were great. They were great.
When you say they were great, you mean what? Just
Great workers, great guys, great workers. Yes, absolutely.
How were they outside the ring? Zbyszko and Arn Anderson.
Super.
Good guys.
Oh yeah.
Were a lot of the veterans? I mean, you weren't you weren't like a.
I started in
You were becoming
'83.
a veteran at this
I was
time,
started in
right?
'83. I was in Atlanta in 1992. I'd been in the business a little while,
Were those kind of guys, were the veterans, were they helpful?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They pull you aside.
As long as you
and
showed respect. You guys remember PN News? Remember
Yeah, I
PN News?
remember PN News.
Quick story. I know.
No, go ahead.
St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis is a big NWA town. Stan Hansen.
Yeah.
Okay, Stan Hansen.
Yeah.
I think Luger and Sting tried to get Ole fired. Didn't get it done. You know who he brought in to work with him? Stan Hansen. Stan gonna beat him up anyway. That's just how he works. That's how it is. You fight for your life. You work. Stan Hansen was a bad. You guys ever remember Bruce Brody?
Yes.
I'd like to see somebody call him an old man one time. I'd like to see that. Right, honest to God, he'd whoop everybody out. I'm not offensive, guy.
Everybody died.
He'd whoop every son of a bitch in the building. That's a mean son of a bitch. But anyway, he brought in Stan Hansen and put him and brought Dan Spivey. Remember him?
Yes.
First went singles, he worked with Luger around. It drew the boys. You watched that, you didn't go after your match was over. They ended up having great matches because Lex fought for his life. He'd be red from head to toe. Then they put him in tags, Luger and Sting against Stan, and Dan Spivey was a bad rat too.
Yeah.
You guys remember the story about him beating up Adrian Adonis?
Who beat
About
him?
killed him. Dan Spivey. And Adrian was tough. Anyway, but did that. Stan Hansen, they tagged him with Sid a lot, and
Sure.
Sid was getting a good push back then.
What was, you always hear stories about Sid being kind of crazy.
They put him with a horseman thing, and he didn't really, but he had that look, and you know how it is, and him and Arn had heat back then before that ever, kind of, but he looked great, and he worked good with Luger. Him and Lex had good matches, man.
Sure.
Sting and Sid had good matches with Sting too.
Pillman was around at that time?
Yeah.
What was,
I was in Japan with Pillman before that, and he was great. I mean, and hell of a work. I love working with Brian.
Yeah.
Well, Steve and I worked his heels with Brian and Tom Zink a lot too. We did, yeah.
Missy Hyatt?
Barry Windham and Dustin Rose, we got to work with them a lot.
Missy Hyatt was around at the time.
Missy was gone not long after.
She ended up coming back in the early 90s.
Wait, maybe, yeah. Somewhere she left. I can't remember. Yeah. Missy was commentary.
Ric Flair, we always hear, he was
always
hear the
good to
stories.
us.
Are they true? Was he, at the bars? Were you ever at the bars?
Oh, listen, Rick, this is no lie, y'all. Ric Flair was the most giving guy. How he wanted everybody to have a good time. He'd get the janitors drunk at the hotel bars. He would. We'd be at Days Inn, Roof's Inn, middle card, undercard guys,
Yeah.
mid card guys, and the horsemen and the top guys all stay at the Marriotts and Hyatts. Rick would tip the shuttle driver $20, and we would tip him too, like $5. Everybody tip him $5 to drive from that hotel, the Hyatt over here, not real far, to the Red Roof for the day's end to pick us up to come party with him.
Wow.
He'd tip him $20 right there, or 100, whatever it's. And he was like that. By the end of the night, when the guy tipped us back, Rick could give him 100 to take us back.
Wow.
20 at first. We'd all tip him $5
Rick
to
was
get there. Tip him $5 back because we had a designated driver. And in every town we used to have, Rick would do it. He'd walk around with trays. Yeah, he'd walk around with trays of shooters.
Right.
We got to work with Butch Reed and and Ron Simmons a whole lot back then too, and a whole lot with them. But no, Rick would he'd tip the shuttle driver $20 to come pick us up at the Red Roof. We'd tip him $5, be 8, 10 of us. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then Rick would give the guy 100. He'd take us back the shuttle bus from the Marriott to the Days Inn, and he'd walk around with trays of shooters all night. He'd give to everybody. He'd get the waitresses drunk, the bartenders drunk, the bouncers drunk, the owner drunk, the damn janitor, the maids, everybody. I mean, he wanted everybody to have a good time. It's crazy, man. And he'd be in the gym the next morning doing a Stairmaster for an hour, and he'd do 1,000 squats, Hindu squats a day.
And you hear a lot of stories that he would never sleep. Go right from the bar to the gym to the.
Most he'd sleep 2 to 4 hours. He'd sleep on air flights in the car.
Yeah. Did you ever get to work with Rick during the late 80s?
Only time I ever got to work with Rick was in a 6-man tag, and it was Rick, Arn, and Sid with what's that guy's name? I can't remember his name. Steve and I, and he had the long hair, did the Indian gimmick.
Chief Peter Nord? No, that was
No, it was for him. I can't remember his name. Good dude. Worked with him in a 6-man tag, and Sid was mad because they weren't really figuring him in on stuff, and he told us, he says, if we went out of the ring, he goes, guys, watch me. He's real jacked, juiced up there. He goes, watch me out there because I might get crazy. He was like, Sid, you're working with us. Don't worry about it. We worked with Sid a lot in there more, and Arn some. I worked with Flair a little bit in there, and he was great. He was fantastic.
You talked about a lot of
Ric Flair would go to all the territories and go 60 minutes with the top baby face.
Right.
Every night. All over God's creation. And he'd go. And he didn't do that same match always, what you see. You ever see matches he had with Brad Armstrong that you just wouldn't, with Barry Windham.
Probably, right?
Yeah. If it was somebody that he was motivated to work with, he didn't do all. Sure, he did the same things, but he could do a lot more than what you saw.
You mentioned a lot of these guys were juiced to the gills, as you said. Were steroids? I mean, you're obviously talking about steroids.
Yeah.
Was it like? Were they talked about in the locker room, or was this something that you would do behind closed doors?
Well, see, for the longest time, I don't know when, steroids were legal.
Sure.
They were legal. And it wasn't that big of an issue until that happened with a doctor with Vince.
Right.
You guys remember that? When that happened, when they busted that doctor.
In the early 90s.
Yeah. And all that with Hulk, and Hulk, I guess, testified against Vince. And
Billy
that's
Graham.
when it did. But it still really, it did. WCW, it didn't really, they didn't.
It wasn't as big of a deal.
If you had a drug test at WCW, it'd be in the Omni. Of course, that's tore down now, right? Yeah. And you'd have 2 weeks' notice. You'd have 2 weeks' notice that there's that to be. Oh, and all I'd say on your booking sheet was be there at 4 o'clock. Didn't say drug testing. You knew.
So they were giving you the heads.
I mean, back then, I didn't do anything.
When you
anyway.
were there, they had.
Only thing I'd ever done is smoke
They
pot.
had a drug test though when you were in WCW.
I don't do that no more. No, yeah, that's when they would do it. They do it about.
Were guys ever getting?
Nah, nobody
Guys
got
failing
busted. Guys,
tests
do you know what though? All they were wanting to get you for was cocaine. That's all they were worried about. They weren't worried about steroids because guys got, they were worried about cocaine.
But did they really care because?
That was a big issue.
Did they have the testing just so they could say we have testing?
Yeah, pretty much. But they were worried about cocaine. If you had cocaine, they weren't worried about pain pills. They weren't worried about pot. They weren't worried about steroids. But crack. That's when the crack age was really getting going, guys. In the late '80s and the early '90s there. That's what
you hear a lot about. There's even some videos that are on YouTube. That somebody had a camera backstage at the Great American Bash, I think it was in the late 80s, and they show the guys openly talking about doing coke, and they show guys cutting lines up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying they were worried about cocaine.
Yeah.
But
by the early 90s they were.
Names
late 80s is when the coke crack epidemic got going. Around 911 is when meth got going.
So what happens if a guy tested positive for coke in his WCW test? Like, let's say Lex Luger tests positive for coke. What do they do?
Michael Hayes was suspended for a while, and they never said what it was for.
Okay, so it would be something.
That's what I
done
remember.
behind-
And Michael would joke about it and go, "I failed my test. I didn't pass my test. I didn't study." Nobody ever said what it was for. I'm not saying it was. I really
So
don't
there
know.
were no real consequences.
He was suspended, but he got suspended for pay, I think.
So
So he was cool. He had a month off.
Right, I was gonna
If I'm
say,
right, I think
the
he
guys
did. Now, I
that
don't
were
want to
never
quote,
getting
and I don't. To tell you the truth, I don't think it was for coke that Michael got suspended for. I don't know what it was.
Right.
But if it was coke, and a few guys did, and I can't
I was
really.
going to ask you,
They weren't around no more.
Would guys ever test positive on purpose to get time off?
Back the PN News story, St. Louis, Missouri. I know I'm off track.
Go
Just real
ahead.
quick. St. Louis was a big NWA town, big deal. Back then, it was like Madison Square as far as
St.
the
Louis
champions.
always been
Yeah,
one
oh
of the
yeah,
big
yeah.
towns.
1990, sitting in the dressing room. Stan Hansen just got off the plane from Japan. He'd been over a month. You know how that is. You're mad. You're having to work. You don't even know your name. You got jet lag. So that's Stan. He's reading the paper in there. PN News was getting the big pushes. The rapper, doing good, working hard.
Yo, baby,
Yeah, he was getting over too. Nobody did that back then. And he kind of got the big head a little bit. And so they put him with Stan, right when Stan just come off the plane into St. Louis International Port, and come
Right
to the
off
building.
plane from Japan.
Yeah, 13-hour time difference, the whole deal. Didn't have, Baba, you get 1 day off a week. You work for Mr. Baba. And PN's in the ring. Stan would read his paper. He'd already done his squats, but he loved to read the paper and he loved to read the stock market. He kept up with the news, everything, and he slept the whole way over and did. And you heard PN call him old man. And Stan goes, Stan's blind as a bat. He got glasses. He's sick.
Really?
Oh yeah. And Stan looks, he goes, "Did he just call me an old man?" Nobody said nothing. And then finally Sid went in and he goes, "Fuck yeah, he did, Stan." Because Sid and him, you wouldn't think Sid and Stan Hansen and Iron Sheik would travel together.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.